Well, hello everyone. We are now running Omarchy 4 Quattro. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Welcome to another episode of BLS Tech. This is a brand new installation of Omarchy. I'm running it on a mini forum, mini PC with an AMD Ryzen 9 with roughly 32 gigabytes of RAM. It actually installed in about 1 minute and 9 seconds. I will actually show a picture of that later in this video. But this is it. It's stunning, it's beautiful, it's using Hyperland, it's using a whole new desktop component system called QuickShell. And today we're going to go in through a basic install and just all the new features that are coming out today. So I'm going to try and get this done all in one shot. Again, right when you boot into the machine, you have some notifications that pop up that help you get set up, such as learning the key bindings, which we'll get into. By the way, super, that is either the command key or the Windows key. Personally, I'm hoping they come out with a Omarchy key for certain keyboards. So Logitech, if you're listening, please work with DHH on that. But let's go ahead and go into Omarchy. You'll notice right away that we get this top bar at the very top. We get some notifications on the far right, such as Bluetooth, network, so Ethernet. We get our ping time, pretty good. I am wired in. Our download and upload, our local IP address, and then we can pick our own DNS provider. I personally like to use Cloudflare, so I'm going to type in my password here and switch over to Cloudflare. And now if I look at that, boom, now we're on Cloudflare, and then all the different Wi-Fi networks that are in my area. And then we get sound. So we get input, we get the microphone that I'm currently using, the output, very easy. And then here on the far right, we can now adjust our display. I can make this bigger, even more bigger. I can bring it back down to normal size. I can also adjust the scale. I'm going to bring that back down to 1x. Boom, my screen just flickered. Over here in the middle, we have the weather. We have the calendar. Today is the 23rd. If I double click on this center right here and I put in my age year, it tells me roughly how much time I have left as far as how many weeks until I get to 90. And then if I go ahead and click on this, we can go ahead and this is kind of similar to those Mac OS machines where you can install an app to either stay awake. We also have silenced notifications. We also have our night light. Again, this is if you're working late at night. We have the reminders, so we can set a reminder. We'll just say 10 minutes from now. Go ahead and say please subscribe and like. So now that's go ahead. It's going to remind us in roughly 10 minutes. I'm going to right click on this to go ahead and dismiss it. And then we also have the dictate. This does have built-in dictation. It leverages a local model for all the transcribing, fully private, fully baked in. On the far left, we have our different workspaces, so you can create more as needed, but we have 5 by default. So if you have email on one, for instance, I'm going to do super enter, which is going to open up a Foot terminal, which Foot is installed by default. You can install multiple different terminals, so Ghosty, Kitty, whatever floats your boat, you can go ahead and install that. I can click on workspace 2 and I can go ahead and start something new. So we're going to do install. And real quick, as I go through this, you'll see this is the Omarchy menu. It's the same menu that you get by clicking this up top. We get our apps, we get learn, which goes through all the various components that you can learn. So we'll talk about each one of these. But if we click on key bindings, you now can see that we see all the key bindings across Omarchy. So it gives us a nice clean view of all those key bindings. I'm going to click escape, go back up here. We're going to go into apps. So by default, you get a bunch of apps. Ether, this is a Omarchy theming application made by one of the core team members on the Omarchy team. This is really wonderful. So for example, if we open this up, I'm going to go ahead and just, we'll go through these in a minute. I'm going to just close these out and we'll set our default agent in just a moment. But here I can browse a local image file and it'll actually extract all the color palettes and help me design my own themes. This is very cool if you want to browse themes. So there's a thing called Wallhaven. So if we scroll down here, we can go ahead and let's say I want to change my wallpaper. I like space, so I'm going to type in space here. And awesome. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to pick, let's go with, let's see here. Let's go with this one. I'm going to do use. You can automatically see that it extracted the full color palette from the image. And I'm going to go ahead and do apply theme. Now this is going to install a theme into your local themes directory within Omarchy. You can name it whatever you want. I want to keep this generated name here. Save and apply. Now if I go ahead and close this by doing Super W, which closes applications, you can see, bam, have a nice beautiful background here. And if I go back into my first one, you'll see quickly right away that it actually matches the theme. So most applications across Omarchy will actually match the theme that's currently set. I'm going to go ahead and go back to our second workspace by doing Command 2. So you can switch back and forth very quickly. And now I'm going to go back and click on the Omarchy menu so we can kind of keep going through here. So again, you see a bunch of default applications, Chromium, CLI app, which is kind of like a WinApp clone, but for Linux. I love this. It allows you to play online music from YouTube, Spotify, online streaming channels. There's a whole website for it. CLI amp. I believe .stream. You have built-in Discord, disk usage. So if you click on this, you can see disk usage across your entire file system. Now if you do super space, it'll bring up this menu again. So again, you can escape super space, comes right back. Everything is driven via keyboard bindings here in Omarchy. Let's see, what else do we get? We get Docker built in. We get a Files app similar to File Manager or to the Finder on Mac OS. You can also attach network drives, so you can browse the network. You can attach Samba drives. If we go back in here again, go back to apps. If I scroll back, you get a document viewer, Google Maps, Google Contacts, Hey, built in. The list just goes on and on. Local send for sending files back and forth between other computers or your phone. Moonlight, which is for game streaming. NeoVim, which is the default editor. OBS Studio, which I'll be editing this video with that later today. Or maybe I'll use like Keen Live. And you get some built-in Omacalc apps or Omarchy apps here, such as Omacalc. So if we open up this, nice, beautiful calendar. This is great. Again, most of these things are kind of built in. And regarding bloatware, most of these apps can be uninstalled, so you can set your own defaults. You can uninstall them. You can really make it truly yours. And that's what they're really going for. They're going for, yes, there's some strong opinions at the gate, but you can tailor it to your needs as you go along and make it truly yours. So let's now go into Trigger. This is where you can do things like trigger the emoji picker, set reminders, capture the screen, such as screenshots or a section of the screen. You can transcode, meaning that if you have an image that actually has some text that you want to extract, you can leverage this. Sharing is exactly that. You can share the clipboard, a file, folder, and or receive files. I believe this uses local send on the back end. And then if I go back by hitting Command Space, I can go ahead and click on Trigger again. And then I can toggle, again, I can toggle pretty much everything that's in the top bar here. You can also trigger here. And then let me go ahead and go back. And then setup is really for everything system-wide. So your monitors, and by the way, there's some amazing plugins on omarchyplugins.com, which we'll get into in just a bit, that allows you to manage your monitors directly via an icon here on the far right. I want to go ahead and then the key bindings and key bindings. Input allows you to, again, interface with your mouse and or trackpad. Network is network, and then this is where you set most of your defaults for apps as well as your AI agents, because you can actually install multiple different AI agents such as Claude and ChatGPT and Pi, and we'll talk about how all those tie into Omarchy later on. There also are plugins. Again, this is probably the biggest feature of Omarchy, at least in my opinion, for this latest version, are the plugins. This is where you can leverage AI to develop anything that you may be missing. Maybe it's an app that you are used to leveraging on Windows and or Mac. Maybe it's something that just causes you toil and pain and you want to automate it, or you want to fill in a particular gap in your workflow. You can really go crazy here and design any plugin you want that you can imagine. And this is really what makes it so powerful, is that this OS becomes completely yours and you can tailor it. And it's kind of like the early MySpace days where you can tailor like your MySpace page to your look and feel. Pretty much same thing here. Yes, it comes with a opinionated style at the start, but you can quickly see that I was able to start changing the theming right away. I can actually create plugins to really match my style of play and or work. Then there's security. So again, we can set a key here. If you're leveraging like a UB key, we can enable SSH. By default, it is turned off, and there is a firewall automatically enabled. And I believe the only port that's currently open is for local send. And then here is, you know how when you're leveraging an AI agent, you might have it do work on your behalf. Well, if you're tired of getting those pseudo pop-ups every time it needs to elevate the privileges, you can set this to be passwordless for, let's say, by default 15 minutes. You can change that default, but I recommend that you keep it at the 15 minutes if you're going to have your agent just kind of run rampant and do work for you. All right, so let's get into style. Again, style here is you can change your themes, your backgrounds. You can even unlock your machine, change your font. I might change mine to the JetBrains Nano Nerd font here, which I love. So boom, it just changed it. It's already live. If I go back to style here, I can look at the menu bar and change the positioning. So I can position this to the left. So now it's over here on the left. I can even click and drag. Let me see, I haven't tried this yet. Yeah, I know you can click and drag here. I just got to find the right spot, but you can definitely click and drag this over. But let's go back into this menu. We'll go back to I believe it's under style, menu bar, and we'll change the position back up to the top. You can do the bottom if you're used to like Mac OS, or if you like your dock, you can place it on pretty much all sides. And then if we look at Hyperland, this is your Hyperland config. It is text-based. This is the NeoVim editor. But now for the very first time, you can see that NeoVim is doing some installations since it is being launched for the very first time. You'll see a bunch of output here on the right. But I won't get into this too much, but you can go and visit the Hyperland website if you want to learn more about how to configure this to your heart's content. Or you can just go ahead and click on Learn and go over to Hyperland, and it will actually open that up. I'm going to go ahead and accept this. And it'll actually open it up right here, so you can actually browse and go through the entire setup of configuring Hyperland in full detail. So I'm going to do Command W and close that. Go back over here to our Omarchy menu, and again, this is kind of like your start menu, if you will, if you're coming from like Windows. For setup, again, the list goes on, right? We can even reset this if we're trying to give this to a friend. It'll reset it back to its original factory defaults. Only if you installed fresh from an ISO like I did. If you're upgrading from a previous version of Omarchy, you might want to just do a fresh install at that point if you're going to be giving it to a family and or friend. Let's go back to style. I know that I'm jumping around just a bit. Just wanted to give you a full view. And then we can also set our screensaver and then the about. The about, if we actually escape this and we go back here and you click on the about, by default you get this nice little preview of what type of machine you're running on. Again, I'm running on an AMD Ryzen 9. I'm running roughly 30 gigs of RAM, and then you can see here which version of Omarchy I'm running. So Omarchy 4 and all the other stats, including the font that I'm currently running and even the theme that we set earlier. So very good, and you can tell this machine is brand new. I just installed it today. And you can see right there, our reminder just popped up from the one that we set earlier, and it went away. So pretty good, pretty cool. And by the way, if you want to change that about, again, you just go to setup and you can go ahead, actually, no, I'm sorry, it's under style, and you can actually change the actual about. You can add the text, you can set your own logo. So if you're deploying these massively across a enterprise or your company, you can set a company logo there, or you can restore it back to defaults. And then let's go into install. So Omarchy by default is on this stable channel, which means that most packages are curated for you and rolled out into the stable channel every 30 days. So Omarchy keeps you behind 30 days by default. And that's actually a sane, secure default. And the reason for that is the team wants to make sure that nothing breaks in between while they're actually updating to the next version of Omarchy. With Arch Linux, typically you're on what's called a rolling update path, where you're constantly getting the latest packages, and some of these packages are so new and so fresh that it tends to break things on your system. And if we're trying to be, in this new era of Linux for the desktop, where we're trying to lure new users into this environment away from Windows and Mac, we need to provide some form of an LTS version, right? Where the OS is stable. And so that's where these different channels come into play. I believe it goes dev, edge, RC, and then stable. I typically, for my personal machines that I rely on, I stay on stable. And if for anything that I'm willing to kind of try out the latest and greatest, I might move to RC. But you can see here that you do get access to the entire Arch repository. Again, just be careful because these packages are not really vetted. And there's a lot of folks out there that are trying to compromise systems. So just be aware that if you do install any of these packages, if you don't really know about them, I would ask your AI agent to go ahead and just scan those packages for any vulnerabilities. So that's why Omarchy is taking a stance on a 30-day rollout as far as updates. Web app allows you to convert any website into a native Omarchy app. So for instance, if you have an app like a banking app or something that you leverage every day that you want to kind of make it so that way whenever you search apps in here, it'll actually list them in here. So what I can do is this. If I go over here and I go to install and do web app, you can see here that it'll ask you for a name. So I'm going to do Omarchy plugins as the title. And then for the URL, I'm going to put https://omarchyplugins.com. And now it created the app. So now if I go do super space and I go to apps and I type in Omarchy, you'll see, boom, there it is, Omarchy plugin. So it treats it as like a native app and even adds the web icon here or the fave icon. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to go back here. Let's go back into install. Two ease. You can, if you have a third-party app that you install that provides a terminal user interface, you can add that here to make it feel native. Again, this is style, so you can change the theme and background and the font. And then if we go to service, this allows you to pre-install services like 1Password, Dropbox, Spotify. I definitely highly recommend 1Password. I use it as my main password manager. You can leverage Dropbox for syncing files between different systems. I personally use SyncThing, which is fully local and private and doesn't really require any cloud service, although it does do discovery of nodes, but that's a little different. That's not actually, it's just there to help you identify and sync your different files together across machines. And so SyncThing really only offers that coordination service. It doesn't actually have any access to your actual files because everything is encrypted locally. Spotify, Signal for the communications. Tailscale, I highly recommend Tailscale. If you don't know what this is, it's a Mesh VPN. So if you're out and about, if you're at the grocery store shopping and you want to access your Omarchy machine remotely, you can do that via point-to-point. Tailscale has no access to your data. They can't see any data going across the wire. Again, they just host a coordination server to link your two nodes together as far as that point-to-point VPN. But it's amazing. It's great. I highly recommend it, especially if you want secure access to all your resources, not only while you're at home, but also while you're out and about. And I will be, as I go to conferences and stuff, I rely on Tailscale to access my machines that are in my home securely, and it allows me to SSH into my machines, allows me to access home lab services. Again, couldn't have enough grace for this. This is a really cool piece of software. There's NordVPN. There's Once. You can go to once.com. 37 Signals has a whole play around Once software applications. So I won't go into that too much. There's Bitwarden, which is the open source solution similar to 1Password, so you can't go wrong there. And then there's Chromium account. This is if you're leveraging Chromium by default. Google doesn't let you sign in with your Google account for syncing. So enabling this allows you to sign in with your Gmail account if you do want to, pull in all your bookmarks, have that Google Chrome feel where all your settings and stuff are being synced between different machines. All right, let's kind of go through the rest here. This is for removing applications, so I won't go too much into that. But again, you can remove packages, web apps, TUIs, things that you installed in the past. And I forgot one more thing in the install section here. Actually, several things. There is development. This allows you to install pre-packaged solutions for developing on Ruby on Rails. DockerDB, which lets you install MySQL, Postgres. JavaScript, my favorite is Go. I'm a Go dev. I love it. PHP, Python, and so on. So again, not having to fish around for packages and guess which versions you need to actually install. Omarchy handles the install for you. And also, you can have multiple different versions of, let's say, Go installed because you're using Mies on the background, which is a great package manager. So if I click on Go, it's going to launch this terminal, and you can see right now it's going to install Go, and it's already done. Boom. You can even see that Mies already has added it to its config file, and you can open that up if you want to. So there you go. Also under install, we have the editors. You can install different editors: VS Code, Cursor, Zed, which is my favorite, Sublime, Helix, Vim, and Emacs. And then you can also, again, when I was talking about earlier on how Foot is installed by default, but you can also do any one of these. I like Ghosty, so I'm going to just install Ghosty real quick. And boom, it's done. See, that was so fast. Done deal. It's installed now. And I think lastly, we have browsers. You can install different browsers. I like Brave myself, so I'll be installing that later. We have AI. This is, again, right, ChatGPT desktop. Now that it's supported on Linux, good job, OpenAI. Grokbot, LM Studio, and Olama. And then if we go, gaming, by the way, is chef's kiss on that, because this works so well. I love Steam. I play a lot of games, and before Omarchy 4, the gaming support was a bit finicky, but Valve is doing a great job getting Proton fully going. You have RetroArch for playing some of your legacy games. Minecraft, if your kids love Minecraft, again, install Omarchy on their laptop, give it a go. They already have Minecraft. NVIDIA, I use NVIDIA a lot, especially GeForce Now. This is great for streaming. I don't really need to bring a gaming rig with me if I'm going to go play games or travel. I can just, boom, from my Framework laptop, I already have Omarchy installed. I can leverage GeForce Now right off the get-go to play any games that are in my Steam library. You have access to Xbox Cloud Gaming. You can even plug in and configure Xbox controllers. Now with Omarchy, you get access to Battle.net, so WoW, Warcraft, and then everything else just keeps getting better and better. So very good job here. Really nice if you're a gamer. And then if we skip on scrolling, Windows. This is a huge one. So again, this is if you want to install Windows on this machine. So if I click on this, it's going to go ahead. Oh, so on this particular machine, I need to go into my BIOS and turn on virtualization. So I'm not going to do that on this video. But again, you can. There's tons of articles online if you get stuck. But yes, if you have those needs where you need to install Windows for those legacy Windows apps or work apps that you need to use, it's a perfect solution if you still need Windows on your machine while you run Linux. It's not good for gaming though, because there's no GPU pass-through, so don't recommend it for any Steam playing within Windows. Maybe that'll come later, we'll see. Things are always like surprising me a lot nowadays with the innovation of Linux. But I think with that you can still run Excel, Office, and those Windows apps that you absolutely need to have in your workflow. We go to update. This allows you to update Omarchy. So again, once a month you might see a little icon here that looks like two arrows going round and round. That means that there's an Omarchy update, and or you can click on Omarchy here, and this will update everything, not only Omarchy itself, but any packages that you may have installed. Since Omarchy does maintain their own separate Arch repo where they mirror and they maintain their own garden, if you will, of like packages, you'll get access to those packages as they release them. If you want to be on the cutting edge and you don't care about things breaking, again, you can switch between these different channels. If you're developing on Arch, or let's say Omarchy, where you want to be a contributor to their project, I would definitely be on Dev. You could install what's called Boxes. It's a VM virtualization software that actually works very well on Omarchy if you want to have a separate install of Omarchy running in a VM, and you can test out these different channels. And then config, again, this is where you can set up and manage your configs across your operating system. So I won't go too much into those, but if you want to dive into editing those, I recommend looking at the documentation. This is where you can install extra themes. This is great. So actually, I think I already have extra themes installed. That's why I didn't really do anything. But if we go back to update, this is also where you can manage your processes. Hardware, right? Audio, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. Again, it's like some of these things are also up there. A lot of times when you change your config, you may need to restart your audio controller or your Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or even like your trackpad. That's why that's there, so you can restart those things without having to reboot your whole machine. Firmware. This is if you want to update firmware on your machine. So hardware, firmware does get updated quite a bit. So I definitely run this at least once every 90 days. And you can see right now that yes, there's already updates, but I'm not going to do this right now because it may need a reboot. But you can see how that works there. And then here's where we can change our password, update our time zone, and then time. And I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that this is fully updated. So yeah, that's fully updated. And that's pretty much it. Omarchy is really cool. Again, there's a lot more here to discover. It is leveraging Hyperland and Quick Shell. So it's very customizable, but most of the interactions are driven through keyboard bindings, which is super K. And this gives you a list of all the bindings. And you can really drive the whole OS with just the keyboard. You really don't need the mouse that much. But everything is a keyboard binding. If you leverage AI a lot and you open up the terminal, you can leverage what's called Herder, which is a terminal multiplexer. This allows you to, similar to Tmux, I use this exclusively because you can have different workspaces. So you can have all the different workspaces. Each workspace can be in a different folder. You can have different tabs, right? Herder also comes with a CLI and a skill baked in. So when you launch an agent, it actually knows how to control Herder, and you can have your agents automatically create planes for watching logs, watching the Node.js servers that you may have running locally. All the things, right? It's fully automatable, and so your agent can have full control over how it drives Herder. Here you can also see that with Herder we have different themes as well, and these themes typically, if you change your Omarchy theme, it's going to change the theme of a Herder. But you can see here I can easily change back and forth. You can set up your indicators, your sound, how you want to get alerts within Herder. So I typically do inside Herder. I'm going to turn agent border labels on, and then there's integration. So right now you can see it's detecting all the agents installed, and it will install those hooks into your agent. And this is primarily because Herder will tell you as you have agents actually doing work here on the far left, if at all they're blocked or they're currently working or they're idle. So I'll do a deeper dive on Herder later, but just really wanted to give you an overview of Omarchy. And again, I would say dive in. This is the best time to really try Linux on the desktop. I think Omarchy has honestly gotten us the farthest along as far as like productivity and like usability. Yes, we have Ubuntu. Yes, we have things like, Mint Linux. But I think right now, Omarchy is bringing a whole new excitement to the Linux community. And I'm so glad to be a part of it. Not just from a technology perspective, but I think really about making your OS yours, and truly adapting it to your workflow. And so yeah, give it a try. Try it in a VM. Try it on older hardware. If you go to omarchy.org/potato, you'll see proof that Omarchy runs great on systems even running 2 gigabytes of RAM. It's really a new day. And there's a lot of chatter on social media, and even Omarchy's Discord, which I heard somewhere around, I want to say 14 to 40,000 folks are now on there. Not really sure, but definitely a live and vibrant community of folks that are just really taking Omarchy to the next level. So again, give it a try. Leave a comment if you tried Omarchy, and I'll definitely do a deeper dive on this in the next episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.